Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Podcast, the show that gives you a peek behind the scenes of your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Adamo Barbieri. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This show is brought to you live by Get Vocal. It's an amazing platform for hosting video chats and engaging your audience. So if you're watching this right now on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. But click that link, come on over to getvocal.com, join the conversation here. You can join the chat bar, grab a spot. We'll have a raffle today. I'll get into that later. But if you join us, ask a question today, you're going to get some free swag. We'll talk about that very soon. Our guest today is the host of the Darknet Diaries podcast, covering true stories from the dark side of the internet. Stories about hackers, defenders, threats, privacy, and much more. In 2018, his podcast had over 1 million downloads. And in 2019, this year, he won the Best New Cyber Security Podcast at the European Security Blogger Awards. We're absolutely thrilled to have him here. Please welcome to the show, Jack Rhysider. Jack, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. And the silhouette, it's creepy, but it goes perfectly with everything you do. And I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, that's just how I have to do it these days. I never know who's looking for me these days.
Exactly. So you never know.
Yeah.
Low profile. I had to lay low for a whole year once. I remember that. Well, sorry. Anyways, before we get into, I want to get into everything about this podcast. It's so interesting and there's so much I want to ask you. And I want to be selfish and I have my own questions, but the whole point of this is to get your audience engaged and grabbing a spot here. So I'll explain. If anyone asks a question in the chat here or grabs a spot on Get Vocal and asks a question to Jack, you automatically are in a raffle to win some Darknet Diary swag. Guys, I am in that raffle as well because I love those t-shirts. They look great designs. Was that you who designed them?
No, I actually got a team of graphic designers to.
It's well done, man. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's not easy to have. I have ideas in my head, but it's really not easy to get them out on paper. So I had to get a bunch of different ideas of people trying it. And eventually I got that one.
Yeah. So guys, I'm going to get the ball rolling, but if you have questions, put them in the chat, grab a spot, and I don't care if you interrupt me. You can just join up and we're all here to ask Jack questions. And my first question, I want to get to the start of this. Where did your passion come from? Like, how did this all start for you with this hacking culture and the whole IT background? Did you study it? Is it your profession? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, IT's always been a thing that I've loved ever since I was on AOL, right, back in the old days, and just getting in chat rooms and seeing how you can connect to people in the internet. Like, I've been glued for 20 years ever since that first taste of the internet. So yeah, it's just always been fascinating to me how computers are just so amazing, and I'm still amazed by how things get done online, and it's amazing. So yeah, I went from there, and just to go quick through it, I got a degree, a bachelor's degree in computer engineering, and couldn't get a job for a long time after that. And so then I did various odd jobs, and then eventually got certified, CCNA, Cisco certified, and that got me a job in the NOC. And the NOC showed me a lot of things. So there's a network operations center, looks like Comm Central. It's got computers all over the place, a lot of people looking at screens. And that showed me like different areas that I could dive into. I could do voice stuff in the phones. Yeah. I could do server administration. I could do networking or security. And security is what I kind of gravitated towards. And then I spent 10 years working as a security network engineer. And then from there, jumped over to podcasting.
So it's honestly, I love what you've done with the podcast, but did you ever realize that this could be your career, doing the show like this, or was this just a hobby for you?
No, here's the thing. Like, I grew up through the 90s.com boom, and I'm like, how, I could have made like a dictionary website and I would have been a billionaire. Just anyone who had a website from then and still going, like, you could have just done anything. So I don't know how I missed that. And then I watched like Bitcoin come and rise, and I didn't like get, you didn't get into that. So I've always wanted like to make money online or be part of this. Like I'm watching it go right through my fingers. So I was studying a lot on entrepreneurship, listening to a lot of other podcasts like Pat Flynn and Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss, and these people who are like, yeah, you can make a business online and, passive income and all this stuff. So I was like, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. So I tried all these things, right? I did blogging and I made all these websites, but just none of it really stuck. And then I was like, there's this podcast that I wish existed, which, is my
Mhm.
idea, right? This Darknet Diaries, but I couldn't find it. So I was like, I'll see if I can learn how to do it. So I got some books and I researched some stuff and I did it, and people liked it. And I was like, oh no, now I've got to make a new one every 2 weeks. This is like insane. What did I do to myself? This is not passive income. This is really
Oh no, I'm popular. God damn
hard.
it.
So yeah, I did not
Yeah.
expect this, and this is probably a very hard road to make be relaxing and
Oh, of course, because like I mean, I'm sure you hold it to a high standard, so you don't want to just produce something that you're not happy with.
yeah.
So I can understand, like it's you got to be perfect, and it shows through the editing, and we'll talk about the editing soon. But it does really show the amount of detail you put into like every second of the podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I that's the thing is I'm always like busy working on stuff, and I just can't sit still. I'm always like, oh, that needs to be fixed, or that needs to be done, and I should try to learn that thing and install that other stuff. So it's just I'm always working on something. So I guess it does fit really well that if I have something that's just going to keep me busy every 2 weeks, do another one. I guess that's all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, for sure. I want to talk about the mission, like the core motivation for this podcast. Like when you started it, what did you want to accomplish? And has that changed, since you've become such a
I
success?
think like a New Year's resolution for me like 5 years ago was to teach more people more things. And I just really like opening people's eyes up to stuff. And I
Okay.
used to go to like conferences, like security conferences, learn a whole bunch of cool stuff, and then come back and try to blow my coworkers' minds and be like, guys, you never believe what this app does or this thing. And really I was trying to like be like tip of the arrow kind of presentation, just like really blow their minds. And I just wasn't getting that effect out of them. They were falling asleep in the conference room, right? It just wasn't getting anywhere. So I was like, how do I expand this? Let's record these talks and put them online, or let's make a blog post out of it or something. So there's always been this goal of mine to just educate and entertain at the same time. And I think educate is really the more important thing there, is like teach somebody
Definitely.
something and do it in a way that's entertaining, so it's not boring and you're falling asleep through it. So I think that has been my goal, is just to educate.
That's great. I mean, I think you've succeeded too, and it is entertaining, like I said. And let's talk about how you put these together. I read somewhere that you make like 300 edits per episode, or like
Yeah.
you end up cutting a lot. So I guess, how do you put these episodes together? Do you have a set script, or do you kind of just try to get everything you can and then make it in post
Yeah, I
production?
mean, what I'll do, so I've got a few different ways to find the stories, right? But one of them is like a Google alerts. Okay, so I put Google alerts and I set these things where it's like hacker died, or biggest hack ever, or hack that reads like a movie script. Like if that ever shows up in a news story, I'll see it, and I'll read it, and
Yeah,
I'll say, oh wow, look at this, the hacker got sentenced or something. And maybe there's an FBI agent involved or something, and so I start learning like the people behind this, and I start researching, right? And I'll read a bunch of stories, and then I'll reach out to anybody who was involved in it. I really like to get the people who were there and not experts. I don't like bringing experts on, because it's just there's no passion there of like, how did it
that's
feel, or
true.
what was that experience like. Getting that inside scoop is where I think the magic sauce is. And so
Yeah,
reaching out to these people, and if I can get them to talk, then I know everything about the story. So I can kind of craft the story. I can craft the questions and hear how it's going to go. And of course I always say, what did I not ask? That's very important. And you know, that gets me the interview. And then from there, I then chop up the interview and write my narration in between. And pretty much everything that I say is written, and I read it, as like a script. And I
yeah,
try to do it in a very exciting, and I think the goal when I'm reading is to do it as if I was there at a bar telling you this story. Like you're an old friend of mine, and I'm like, look, you'll never believe this thing that happened. Let me tell you. And then I grab
yeah.
like somebody who was there and say, he's going to help me tell you the story, right? You got to listen to this. And that's kind of like the tone that I have, is this kind of like non-professional, just like, look, we're two friends. I'm going to tell you this crazy thing that happened. And so I get that sense in my mind when I'm reading the script, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm with a buddy at a bar, and I think it just goes from there. And yeah, there's a ton of edits because I cannot narrate at all. And so I just keep flubbing it, and I have to redo it over and over and over to get that right tone sounding. And I cut out probably half of what I say because I just said it wrong. I just don't like the way it sounds.
Well, I mean, it's clearly working. When I listen to your episodes, it feels like true crimey, but with the hacking content, like all this subject matter, and it's like really upbeat. And I feel like it's a great marriage. Was that intentional, or is that just come out through your creative juices?
Well, there's kind of two parts to that, right? So it's like a category of itself, right? And this is important to me because I was reading this book. Tim Ferriss recommended it. I think it's called like 23 Immutable Laws to Marketing. And it's like you break these laws at your own risk, because if you screw up one of these, if you don't follow this law of marketing, you will not do very good. And one of like the first laws in there is just create your own category, right? And so there isn't like a true crime, cyber crime category. And I'm like, I'm going to make that's my category. Like, it doesn't have to be in iTunes as that, but it's like, nobody's doing something like this. I'm going to make that. And then I'm going to try to be the leader of that category. Right. And so I was very competitive in that category I created, it felt like. And so that's kind of, was a big goal, is what is my unique thing here from a marketing perspective, and then go for that. And then, as well as I'm just so passionate about these stories. I just love hearing this stuff, because I've heard a few of these before I started making the show, and I was glued to it, right? Like, a good story can keep me in the car, and even though I got to where I'm going, I won't get out because I'm just so interested in hearing how it ends, right? And so I recognize that power, and I try to harness that and do that myself, and that's had effects on me. So I'm like, how do I give that to people in this new format that people aren't really understanding this category? This category doesn't really exist. And so it just kind of comes over, and my passion shines through, I think.
It definitely does, 100%. Like I said, I'll keep saying it throughout this hour. It's the detail that you put in. It's amazing. Guys, we're live on getvocal.com. We're also live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. But join us here. Join the conversation. We can grab a spot. If anyone in this chat room right now wants to grab a spot, talk to Jack, you automatically get submitted into a raffle, and then we can pick your name out. And if you win the raffle, you get some free swag. And everyone loves free swag. Like I said, I'm going to be in that raffle because I'm selfish. Don, we have Don coming in.
Oh, man, give me the free swag.
Don, thanks for joining us.
Come on, man. I want some free swag.
Free swag. Hey, you're in the raffle now. What's your question?
I just wanted to ask. I just watched that series. No, it's not a series. It was actual Netflix on Snowden, and I was kind of like really blown away. They did a good job of portraying him, but the story, there was a lot of stuff that just really opened my eyes in the story that he was talking about, that I had no understanding how deep it went and how broad it was, because, like he says, the government is eyeballing more of the United States than any other place in the world. And that's, to me, kind of like was really kind of an eye-opener. I didn't realize it was as big as that was after watching that.
Don, you're in luck. We're going to have, so I kind of went through in the summer, I did a bunch of pen testing stories, right? I listened to a lot of pen testers tell me the story. And now I'm kind of switching to government hacking stories. And it's going to open your eyes in that same way. And in fact, I do talk about Snowden in 2 episodes. So we're going to get into a lot of what he did, as well as, it's just, I think there's 4 or 5 or 6 episodes about government hacking throughout this fall and winter. So we're just going to really get into it, and it's going to get scary at times. But that blows my mind as well.
But the thing I was struck by in that movie is that he seems like he's got his heart in the right place, and that was kind of a sad situation for some people to be calling him whistleblowers, some people to be calling him a criminal. And I was just thinking about that. And if you think about that in the broader terms, in the macro terms, that he was basically saying, wait a minute, this is just really, really wrong, and I want to shed some light on it. And in our society today, in the United States anyways, it seems like any of that is just frowned upon all the way across the board. There's just no room for saying, here's a little check. We got to check this and see if this is a good thing or a bad thing. In this government, it just doesn't seem like there's any,
I think there's
no
another
checks and balances.
Yeah, I think there's another documentary on Netflix called War on Whistleblowers or something like that, and it dives into this as well. Like, are they beneficial to us, or are they damaging to us? Are they heroes, or are they scoundrels? And it balances it out. And I think, yeah, a lot of back and forth between all the details of did lives get put in in jeopardy here, or did secrets get exposed when they shouldn't have been? It's really hard to cut through and understand how good things are or bad things are without really being there. It's hard for me to take judgment on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, Don, thanks so much.
Letting me put my question out there. And I did subscribe to, and I went over to your website too and subscribed to your podcast. So it's really cool.
There you go. A new fan has been made.
Cool, Don.
Thanks, Don.
12 midnight here in Denmark. So.
Oh God. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate the joining us. That's dedication right there. How does the hacker community feel about Snowden? Speaking of Snowden.
Yeah, I mean, it's divided, like there's a lot of the NSA and government folks that are like, he broke, clearance. He broke secret clearance, and he was sworn to keep this stuff private, and he broke that. And that's like a big no-no. You don't break protocol. You if you have a problem, you take it up the chain to your superiors, and you tell them like, hey, this is not what I should be doing, or we should be doing, and we need to, report this. So there's a lot of people who are just very angry that, that happened. And these are secrets for a reason. And he broke that protocol. But then there's other people that are like, wait a minute, he's exposing things that we should know about. And yeah, so there's people who are a very privacy advocate, are like, this is very helpful for me to know what my government is doing, and now I can hold them responsible for doing this. And so it's torn. I think for the most part, the hacker community is for him, but things change over time. These people who go into exile or hiding or something, they go, maybe they start going a little crazy and doing things, or maybe things get corrupt over time. And it's like, are we really talking to Snowden on Twitter, or is this someone else? And it's hard to know. And if it's someone else, then, the message is changing over time. So it's you can judge someone during one piece of time, but then as time goes on, your judgment changes for them, and it's hard to know like everything that's going on. I mean, that's what changed for Assange, right? He was once considered like, oh yeah, he's exposing these things, but then he got a little weird after a while, and then anti this and that, and it just changed. So it's changed over time.
Yeah. I like Liz's question here. She kind of flipped that one. So how's the hacking community feel about your podcast?
Yeah. See, this is the thing that I tried to balance was I wanted a show that the hacking community could appreciate, right? I don't want to dumb it down. And when I watch like the Discovery Channel, I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, get me the level 303 version or the 505 version. And I want to hear like a more in-depth version. And it's just too dumb. But, so I didn't want to like down the whole topic. I wanted to have it deep and technical, but then at the same time reachable for the general audience. And that's a really hard balance to do, but I think I've done it. The hacking community does appreciate the podcast quite a lot. And in fact, I'm learning recently that even the Department of Defense and some people in the NSA listen to it as well. And they have a unique perspective over things, right? And so they see it as something very, very helpful and informative for themselves, which to me kind of blows my mind.
Hey, Liz, sorry, I should have called you in. I didn't think you were going to. Do you have a follow-up question? Thanks for camming up.
Oh yeah, no. Hey, hi, and also thanks for coming out. And that really answered my question. I honestly was curious what other developers and people in the community, how they were reacting to sort of you showing off all the secrets, if you will, and like pulling that curtain back. But you really covered it. I think it's great that there's such a strong educational factor in the podcast, and it makes sort of these super esoteric topics way more, accessible for the layman. So
what do you do, Liz?
I actually also work in tech. I'm a marketing manager, and I really enjoy it a lot, but I have a very strong interest in tech and also hacking.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So I'm glad. Yeah. It's reachable for a lot of audiences, and
it really is.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see where it goes. One of the things that kind of, one of the driving factors was I was trying to convince my manager of how bad a certain breach is, and he wasn't getting it, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, maybe if I make a podcast, I can convince some other managers how bad things are. And that's what happens sometimes. I hear that is, some of the security team, they listen to my show and then they give it to the manager and say, you have to listen to this because it hits home for that company, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
then the manager's like, okay, we need to change everything. You're absolutely right. We were doing it wrong and we do not want to be like this. And so, yeah, I think I've made quite an impact on quite a variety of people.
And it's interesting because this industry and this world is, I mean, I feel as though the corporate sector is just racing to catch up with what we've all been able to do and what people in your profession have been able to do for coming on decades now, and they're just now realizing how weak and insecure their infrastructure is, and they're just scrambling now to get to a more secure place. So it's pretty awesome to know that you have this podcast that's making a pretty big impact on, the corporate world and in general, the world. So really
Yeah.
neat.
I think, yeah, it's one of those things I think is on the tip of everyone's tongue, right? It's not just the corporate world, but like my dentist and barber are talking about, hacking and stuff. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
how do I get like you guys excited about this stuff? And so,
Oh yeah.
sometimes I reach into those spaces too. And it's really wild. There
I
was
know
one
that there's.
story.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I heard this one story about a mechanic who listens while working on his car, and he had to get everyone in the shop to listen too because he just couldn't believe it. And I'm just like, wow, it's crazy.
There was
It's
this.
stuff like that that keeps you going, man. Like
Yeah, it
that's
does.
unreal.
I definitely was really amused to hear about hardware, people's like printers being hacked or like their fax machines and things like that, which really kind of opened everyone's eyes to how vulnerable everything really is. If it's connected to the internet, it can be hacked. So it's a cool topic to delve into.
Yeah, I sometimes use the analogy that I feel like the 2000s was like kind of like an oil spill of the environment, except it wasn't an oil spill. It was like a data spill, right? And we were just like letting all of our privacy and personal information just out there and not securing our stuff. And now to try to clean up an oil spill is very hard, right? It's not an easy thing. And it's the same thing trying to clean up our data out there and secure the world is like, okay, we got to put this back in the bottle, and it's going to take a long time to clean up. So yeah,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know.
People have a lot of catching up to do for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Liz, thanks so much for your
Yeah.
question. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
We'll
nice.
clear up. And we'll clear
Thanks
up the
for coming
spot
on.
now. See if anyone else wants to hop on. Guys, we're live on getvocal.com. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. If you're watching there, thank you so much for joining us. But join us here. Join the conversation. Ask Jack a question. Guys, if anyone wants a free spot available, if anyone right now wants to ask Jack a question, please hop on or use the chat bar. But I'll be selfish then until that happens, and I'll ask my own question because I am a selfish jerk. You receive a lot of DMs that you like to retweet and stuff like that. What are some of the more outlandish requests you've received? I know some people even ask you like, can you hack this? Can you hack that?
Yeah. Exactly. So that's probably very common, right? Is hey, can you get into my this Facebook account? And I'll always entertain it. I'll be like, yeah, here's how you do it, right? You tell them like this is how you lost your access, you need to recover it, you can send a recovery link to your email, and they're like, no, I don't have access to the email. I'm like, well, you need access to the email, but it's someone else's stuff. I said, well, steal their phone then. Just go to their phone, grab their phone and steal it. And then you have access to their email. Well, they're across the country. Okay. Well, you're making this hard for me. Right. And so I walk them down all these steps, and then they're like, and then I eventually tell them like, wait, you're hacking into like someone else's account that's not yours. And they're like, yeah. And so, yeah, I do entertain a lot of these requests, and then I can't help them because it's not just the path that I'm on. Right. I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, a lot of people want me to hack into Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. So hacking myths are what are some of the common hacking myths? And are you trying to bust certain myths on your podcast?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, so I think a lot of people that don't understand hacking think that hackers just have some special tool that you just push a button and it works. Like, just get me access to this Instagram account and then I can like do it and it's done. But it really takes a lot, there's 50 different ways to do it. And, one out of the 50 might work. And so it's not just so easy as just a certain tool. And so, you know, that's something that I think is a big myth that people don't understand. But one of the myths I like
it's not just like a big red button. They're just like, press the hack button.
Yeah, just put your name in and you do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't work that easy. But I think a myth that I kind of try to bust on the show is it's like all the different. I like to try to come up with many different reasons to hack and like places and uses for hacking, right? So like some people do it for money, some people use it for political gain and all this stuff. And I don't like to try to stay in one zone for a while. And so, you know, I like to be all over the board, because a lot of people have this picture maybe that there's just some hacker in their mom's basement or something with a hoodie on. And I like to kind of bust that and be like, no, sometimes there's a kid in his 5th period class that does it. Like, what are you going to do now on a tablet in class? And it's like, oh, that's not how I imagine it. Okay, great. Exactly. Welcome to the show. And so, you know, I like to really paint the picture of how this happened and where it happened and what the scene was like during that, to just show all the different ways it can go down and stuff.
There's a question here. What are your own personal best practices in terms of privacy as an insider? For example, do you own an Echo?
No, I don't have any of these voice activated things. I think over time, I will think that the benefits outweigh the privacy, but I don't think I'm there yet. But I think that, you know, the big things are to update your software, use a password manager and have a different password for every website you log into. And, you know, those 2 things alone, I think, are going to be a big help. So that's just securing your stuff. As far as privacy goes, I wouldn't talk about your own stuff online, like have some sort of buffer of like, yeah, we're not going to talk about like vacations I'm taking or family members or things like this, because, you know, scams can go on, or people can come to your house when you're not home and all these things because they know information about you. And there's a scam going around where they just look at your social media and then they can see all this stuff, and then they can call your grandma and say, hey, does your grandchild have, you know, this car and this stuff? And I want to confirm because I'm with the police, you're right, and I want to make sure that I'm talking to the right person. And they list all these things that they know about you because you're publicly talking about it. And so, you know, keeping that just off social media and stuff, make it hard for people to gather information from you is a good start. There's a podcast that I think is called the Privacy and Security Podcast, and it's fantastic to walk you through all the things that you can do to get private and secure. And there are a million things you can do depending on how deep you want to go. So the Privacy and Security Podcast is one to follow up on.
Okay, great. I'm getting a Twitter question here. Do you have any stories that didn't get published because if the facts didn't check out, but you wanted to publish it? So is there something you wanted to publish, but the facts weren't there?
Yeah, there's a big story. There was a person who, I mean, I think the story goes like this, where they go on the darknet and they bait pedophiles, and then when the pedophile, you know, chats them up, then they go to their house and beat them up. So how do I fact check this story? Like, did you actually beat them up or what? Like, and so it's really hard for me to know if that one's a true story or not. And that one goes so much deeper than just that. And so it's such an amazing.
How long has that been around though? How long has that story been around?
And on my plate, how long have you known about that? I've been holding on to that one for 1.5 years now. It haunts my head because there's so much to that story, but there's absolutely nothing I can do to fact check it. And I mean, it's a very long story. There's so much stuff. So I don't know what to do. And so I'm thinking about actually doing something about it recently, where I just say, you know what, here's something I cannot fact check, take it for what it's worth, and then just go with it from there. Because it might need to be told, and I just don't know how to tell it. And I want to have good journalistic integrity. So anytime I do something that I don't know if it's, you know, if I can't do anything about it and I'm not sure, then I will say something.
So we're getting another Twitter one here. Jacob M. Jevons asks, how often do you track down false stories? Just curious the frequency in which they turn out to be bogus. So have you been able to prove these stories wrong, I guess?
You know, it's not so much people telling me stories, but there are links that I'll follow that are bogus. Like sometimes I'll go onto Wikipedia just to see something, and there'll be this very interesting thing, and it's like, oh, and so I look on Wikipedia just to see, I won't ever quote Wikipedia, but I'll go to the links that say this is where this is from, and then I'll read those articles. And one of the links was like really outlandish, and so I went to it, and it was the Inquirer.com, right, which is just a tabloid website full of like things like aliens landed in Joe Rogan's backyard last night or something, right? Like that's the stuff they publish. And I'm like, this is not a quotable thing. I cannot quote the Inquirer. And it's just such goofiness that I run into sometimes. And some news outlets just have such a terrible time of getting the facts straight and getting things worked out. So as I'm researching stories, boy, do I run into a lot of terrible journalism out there.
People I love the Joe Rogan thing that you just said. I think that's true though. That one was real for sure.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. What's the most challenging thing when producing these podcasts, or is there a specific episode that was just really hard for you to get perfect?
Yeah, I mean the last 2 episodes, the Xbox series, that was that took at least 5 months, maybe 7 months of getting it right. And, you know, there were a lot of voices in there, and it was such a challenge to weave them all together and to actually just to get the story straight from the beginning, because it's such a complicated story. I have charts and charts of like papers around here somewhere where it's just like lines of people, like how they're connected and stuff, because I was just like, who
like
is all these people?
Like a crime scene, eh? It's just like connected.
It was it was really hard. Like people say it was a wild ride. Well, I fell off the ride a few times on that Xbox one because I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. And you know, I'm in the middle of the interview with one of those people, and I'm like, who is that? Who are you even talking about? And they're like, oh, well, that's his hacker name. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
we have another question from Twitter. Sorry to interrupt there. Talon says, question for Jack: why do you hide your face when you have photos online of yourself?
I hide my face because I want to make it hard, right? So the photos online are not easy to get, but I feel like journalists are being targeted in today's, you know, space. You've got you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Maybe it's just because that's what I'm tuned into. So I think being a journalist and trying to talk about these stories that may not other people don't want me to talk about, I think it's important to hide my face, and it's important to try to stay secure. Now I've made some mistakes, so you know, some stuff needs to be taken care of there, perhaps. I don't know, but I'll do what I can to stay under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, do you think privacy is like overlooked when it comes to like companies? Oh, but wait, sorry, we'll save that question. Bobby with the mustache and the shades, loving it, Bobby. What's your question, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing? I love the topic. I love the darkness of your cast. I'm definitely going to look up, you know, your podcast, and I love this show. That's for sure.
Oh, Bobby, thank you.
My question is, you know, what would be some tips that you could give me to, you know, learn about, you know, say hacking or dabbling into things? I love dabbing. But as in, you know, surfing the dark web, you know, easily and securely without without anyone knowing who I am.
Oh,
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I think a hacker is just somebody who hits like a wall and then doesn't let that wall stop them. They just keep on going. Right. So you're already a hacker. I can tell. You're like, this doesn't work. I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. So just have that passion for whatever it is you want to do. Right. You want to hack something. There's ways to practice it. So, you know, you could get certified and get things like certified ethical hacker, and that kind of holds your hand and walks you through all the tools and stuff. And you can also do things like CTFs, which is capture the flag, which is kind of like, here's a challenge, try to hack into this, and it's purposely vulnerable for you to figure out a way in. And if you can't figure it out, they'll kind of show you like, here's the answer to this, right? So look up CTFs and try a few of those. And then on the dark web, man, stay off there. That's Danger Town, unless you know what you're doing.
I actually heard that I'll probably type in the chat, or maybe I can talk to you on your podcast, but I heard there's a browser that you can use now with a VPN, and it pretty much masks everything. I mean, is that true or false, or is there such a browser or no?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your threat landscape, right? Who's attacking you? Is it your ex-girlfriend? Is it the NSA? Who are you hiding from? Who do you want to be defending against? And so, if you're hiding against the NSA, those things might not be effective. If you're hiding against some cheap hacker who doesn't really know what they're doing, yeah, a VPN is going to help. The Tor browser is going to help, and that's going to hide where you are in the world and all that stuff. So yeah, that will help.
Who are you hiding from, Bobby?
If you have any questions for me, I'm ready to drop off. I just wanted to enter the drawing, and that's about it.
Bobby, you love the free swag. You're wearing the Get Vocal swag, and now you want some Darknet swag. I love it. All right, well, thank you for the question, Bobby. Too much flexing for the camera. We can't handle that. At Mama Bear is asking, what hack have you tried that went terribly bad?
Ooh, good question.
Mama Bear from Twitter.
What have I tried? I think I think I've tried to, one of the things that I've always done, like just as a teenager and stuff, is just try to sneak into places just to see if I could walk into this place, right? Like a baseball game, a movie theater, a concert. And so, a few times I've been completely caught where it's like, you should not be here. And I've been completely embarrassed, but you just leave. Like, it's not a bad thing. So that one is what first comes to mind. So here's one that I think is embarrassing to me. I bought a server on Craigslist or something, and it had, I think it was Windows 2001 server, and I couldn't hack into it. I couldn't find a way in. And so I was like, because they didn't give me the admin password. So I was like, I'll just hack my way into it. And I could not find a way in. I was so frustrated with myself for saying, okay, no problem, I'll get into this thing. And it was so old and ancient, and I just could not get a way in. And
Couldn't break it.
Yeah, I was so frustrated with myself. So that was a big failure, and I'm very embarrassed.
You haven't been able to since, though? Have you tried? You didn't want redemption?
I threw that thing away. I got so frustrated with it.
Too funny. Guys, we're live on getvocal.com with Jack Rhysider of the Darknet Diaries podcast. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. If anyone has a question, I know we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. Join us here. Join the conversation. Grab a spot. If anyone wants to grab a spot right now, ask Jack a question, please go ahead and do so. If not, I'll take the floor. I'll ask a question. I'm not scared to ask a question. Jack, what's the nastiest malware or virus you've heard of?
Oh, let me think here. So I think malware on like hospitals is probably up there. Yeah. And it's like these people don't deserve this because they're having trouble. They have to keep lives up, right? They have to keep people alive and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, we have to take some money out of, something here to go fix this security incident. And it would have been nice at the beginning, but they didn't have the budget to have a good security at the beginning. So that one always makes me cringe, like, oh, that's so bad for them. So yeah, malware that shuts down a hospital or anything like that, I think is probably up there.
Yeah. Oh, we got a follow-up question from Talon. For someone who streams and has photos online and is in the public domain /I, do you think it's harder to be in a SecOps career because they're so easy to find?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to think about that one, Tal. I'm not sure exactly the answer there.
We'll get back to you, Tal. DM them. Yeah. We'll talk. You guys can talk through the DMs. Any other questions, guys? Grab a spot, please. I want to talk about creative control before someone grabs a spot, or anyone can interrupt me too. I'm here the whole hour, so please interrupt. Get that free swag. But creative control. I know you started working solo. Do you now have a team working with you to produce this?
So the first 40 episodes or so were just me. Just me, and then As I started making some money off this, because it is a full-time position now, and you know, I was able to afford my own bills. So then I got a little extra to say, okay, now I can have some help. So graphic designers, I've got like 4 or 5 of them helping me make the episode artwork and the website artwork and some t-shirt artwork and some other things. So there's that. But then I've got I've got 2 story writers now, where I give them some ideas for stories to write, and these will be ones that I don't have an interview lined up. And so then they'll research the story, and then they'll give me a good rough draft, and then from there I can take that rough draft and turn it into what I would say, and you know, fix it up. So I do have that. And then like I said, I screw up my narration like 1,000 times. So after I narrate the script, I'll give it to somebody to clean up my narration. So I do have a few people helping me out. They're all, you can consider them all like freelancers and you know, that kind of thing. I don't really have a team where I have like a studio and there's like, you know, a front desk and stuff. So it's all like very disparate.
Yeah. There's another Twitter question from Matt Has. He writes in, what is the future of the show? How long do you think you can keep doing this? Like, is it sustainable? And with the right buyer and the right price, would you sell the show?
I think I love doing it. So I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. I think what could be the future next thing would be like a book where I have, you know, maybe some unpublished stories that I haven't done yet go in the book, and you can hear some extra stuff there. And because I do think that there's a growing book section in the bookstore of this kind of thing. So I think it would be cool to kind of get in. Still, I think it's still very early to get in that section. So I see that section of the bookstore growing, and yeah, I could be in there. So that's that's the thing. And then, for a buyout, well, you know, this is kind of something I've thought of for a long time, being a potential entrepreneur. Like, let's make something that I can sell and get out of. But I don't see how that could be here. I think I need to still be part of it. And here's the big thing, right? Is I've bootstrapped this all on my own. And now it's making, you know, my own income. Like, it's doing okay. So, you know, you would have to, there's no reason for me to get rid of it. It's no reason to sell it. I think what might happen is if somebody wants to buy like the movie rights or TV rights, and
that's my follow-up.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting question. So that I've had some
Hollywood, Netflix, there's so many different platforms, and I think that this can translate over. Has anyone even come up to you yet? I know you're still pretty new at this, and you have such great success, and you're still like in what, year 2 of it?
Year 2. I just finished my second year, or you know, I just had my anniversary a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I've had a couple nibbles, right? So I've had one producer's secretary email me and say, are the TV and video movie rights available? I said, yeah, but they're going fast, so get in on this. And they never got back to me. And then I had another Hollywood producer email me, and actually we talked on the phone, and they said, come on down to LA and let's get this made. And I'm like, well, who's going to direct it and star in it? And they're like, well, you bring everybody. We got the studio. You bring. I said, no, I'm not bringing everyone. So I'm a one-man podcasting team, basically. And they want me to make a one-man video. Like, it's just not going to work. And who's funding all this and stuff? So they really want me to go down there and do that. But I really want to see a director that I admire and appreciate. I don't want to get this into the hands of like some, you know, after school special director who doesn't really understand like this whole process, or, you know,
you don't want to have like a made for TV movie. Like you want to hit hard. Yeah.
I want it to look good. So I'll probably hold out until I get the right team to help make it. And I don't want to, you know, have it be bad. So we'll make sure that it's good. If
Liz is writing in, James Cameron adding some explosion graphics. That's true. That'd be amazing. That's what hacking needs, more explosions.
Yeah, it could go bad really fast. And I don't have a good eye for visuals there, so I don't even know like what would be cool and stuff. But somebody else needs to bring that vision to me, and then we can talk.
Yeah. So I'm seeing right here, we put up a graphic, #1 on the charts for a technology podcast. Congratulations on that. Like that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, that was exciting because I got featured by Apple Podcasts, and when I got featured, my show just blew up. on Apple Podcasts only, because the charts are based off of how many new subscribers a day. And so as it's featured, you're seeing a lot of people subscribe, right? So yeah, I rose up, and somebody who I feel like is a competitor show of mine is Reply All, and I'm just excited that I beat Reply All in the charts, because I'm like, look at that. you guys were sleeping. So it's just one of my secret things of like, those are my competitors. They don't know they're my competitors, and really the thing is that all the high tide rises all boats, right? So everyone is growing, and I think that's wonderful. I really don't have a competitor, but it's fun to watch and see who can I can play against.
Speaking of growing, I mean, how do you market, like marketing wise, starting out? I mean, did you have any experience with marketing, and how do you go about advertising the show?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I was so itching to get something going online, like any website or SaaS or service. And so while I was like getting ready for that, I was reading a ton of marketing books, tons and tons of marketing books. Seth Godin is one of my favorites. And so, whenever I had something that was like, oh, well, this is ready to be marketed, I was ready to go, right? I was super excited. So I have like a million marketing ideas, but I think the thing that really comes down to is make something that resonates with people in a way that they want to share it with other people. Like I've heard people say that I brought it to my office and I shared it with everyone. And now if you don't listen to it that Tuesday morning before coming in, you're going to get spoilers because everyone in the office is going to talk about the show. And I'm like, that's how you market, is you make something that's so exciting that everyone has to come and talk about it in the office that same day. And that's how it spreads. That's how it markets. Word of mouth is king and still in this world. So I do also am on all the socials just so that I can market there as well. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. Discord,
Reddit too, man. Like,
Reddit.
Reddit's huge. Like, you're really active on Reddit, and I know if you use Reddit properly, you can really skyrocket and like really take off from there, I think.
Yeah, there's just people are flocking all over, and I love it because I like to reach them where they are, because people don't read billboards anymore, right? They look at their phone as they're driving, and and that's how it goes. So you get on their phone and you get in the spaces that they're wherever they're looking at the phone, and then you get in front of them there, and that's how you market these days.
I'm laughing at Bobby's comment right here. He says, first of all, he's like, are you going to launch your own magazine? And then he says, I dare you to hack me. Bobby, I don't think you should dare Jack to hack you. I don't know if, I mean, you can accept Jack if you want. We can wait. You can do it live on Get Vocal. I mean, that's great content right there.
Yeah.
Guys, we're live on getvocal.com. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, all that good stuff. But join us here on getvocal.com. Grab a spot. If you ask a question to Jack, you automatically get into this raffle, and you win a beautiful Darknet Diaries shirt. Look at that swag. Look at that design. It's perfect. Good. Yeah, it looks really good.
In that one, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think either way, I'm buying one. If I don't win this raffle, I'm buying it. So let's talk about Reddit. I mean, do you think that's helped grow your brand? A lot of people overlook Reddit, I think, and kind of just, they make like those Facebook and Instagram ads like that you can just make for yourself. But Reddit, I feel like, can really help grow a brand properly.
So I've been on Reddit for 13 years now. It's just some place that I love, and I've always liked it. And I also hate it at the same time, just completely abhor it. But it's one of those relationships.
It can get crazy. I know it can get pretty dark, and a lot of people can just jump down your throat really quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if I'm on there all the time, I'm like, let's throw a subreddit together, see how it goes. And yeah, people are liking it. They're sharing all kinds of articles there and asking questions. It's a great place to interact with people.
That's our producer, Gisela. She's live. No, now she's not. Yeah, definitely. You know what I saw on Reddit was, I know in the first few episodes you put in like a code at the end of each episode.
Mm-hmm.
What can you talk about that and what that was? And are you still doing it, or do you plan to do it again soon, or is that can you?
Oh yeah, there's some secrets around that. You're right. So yeah, in the first 7 episodes, at the end of the episode is a secret code. And so what do you do with those 7 secret codes that you hear at the end of the episodes? So to me, this was exciting because it's like, I like solving puzzles and challenges, and I like how in the TV show Mr. Robot there's hidden stuff. And so I really like this idea of throwing some secret stuff in there and seeing if anyone can figure out what that is. And so far I've had about 25 people figure out what that is, which is exciting, but still not that many compared to I think right now I'm at 100,000 listeners. So out of that, there's a very small percentage of people who have figured out what those secret codes are. But yeah,
and you can't give us a hint right now, can you?
Oh, there's secret codes there. That's all I'll tell you. But it was such a, I mean, just to get those 7 episodes secret, because I wanted to do a different format, right? It's not just the same, like Morse code is one, backwards talking is another. Like I didn't want to do the same thing every time. So how do I do a different secret message in every episode? Like I was just racked my brain. I ran out of ideas. So
yeah,
I had to stop. But I've thrown in some other secret stuff, through over time, and I think I definitely want to bring it back. So good stuff's there sometime soon.
So we're looking at the Darknet Diaries, the Ask Jack Discord. We pulled up some unanswered questions from Tombo. He wants to know, Jack or she, Tombo could be a he or she. Jack, if someone asked you to direct a Netflix docu-series, would you do it? If you were asked to direct a docu-series?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to help for sure. I want to have some creative input. I think I've got some ideas, but I don't have the first idea on what a director does. So I would
maybe co-direct, because I feel like creatively you can direct. You understand what you want to hear and see, but there's so many technical aspects when directing a video. It's like you don't even, like shot listing and it just gets lenses and stuff like that. That's like it takes the fun out of directing, in my opinion. But I think you can be a consultant easily on any show that has this. I mean, I'm surprised. What's it called? Criminal Minds. There's got to be episodes that you could have consulted on to make that way better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because have you ever watched Criminal Minds where that girl's just on the computer just like doing this and she's like, I'm in all the like every time.
Oh, she has no problem. I've seen those clips. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. Like, how accurate is that? She's just smacking a keyboard and she's like, and I'm in. We did it. We solved the crime.
We can't. No, it's not going to be like that. And they cut. Yeah. It's just it frustrates a lot of the hacker community to see that stuff. We pretty much like hate that and want to shut that off as soon as we see that because it's such a joke. The show that does get it right is Mr. Robot, and Silicon Valley as well. These shows have people from the hacker community to consult with the creators to get it right. And so in Mr. Robot, every app he uses and every attack that he uses is legit and done. You can do frame by frame and almost replay exactly how it's done.
I think Don here is trying to give you some promo, just going through the episodes right now for you.
Yeah,
look at that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
sure can.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the artwork on your website is really bitchin'.
Thanks. Yeah,
Don,
I do.
When do you go to sleep, Don? When do you get time to sleep? You said it was midnight already.
Yeah, it's like 1 o'clock now. I sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Love it. Very intense.
Yeah,
the artwork is amazing, Jack. It is really well done, man.
Yeah,
thanks. Really it took me a while to get there, but it has this kind of theme that I'm liking right now. And there's a team of graphic designers behind this that I get them to work as fast as they can. As soon as they turn around and give me the image, I give them a new thing to do. So there's like 5 or 6 different people helping out.
Yeah, it looks like I like the idea that you're going with like almost monochromatic, but you just added a touch of red in there. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was looking at the color wheel to try to come up with a good color scheme, and black and white is not on the color wheel, so I really failed me that color wheel. So I like this black, white, and red.
Maybe we hack the color wheel and we change that. Can we do that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Can I ask one more question before I go Betty bye? And that
sure.
Was, what do you think about this Huawei scandal? Do you think it's just a bunch of blown up hype to throw a rock in their spokes, or do you think it's to actually got some legitimate concerns? I personally, I think it's something to do business to business, like, with businesses always constantly, they're trying to, throw a stick, as you might think, with any competition. And I think that's a big thing because they're headed towards 5G domination, I mean, that's my own personal feeling about it.
Yeah, I have some conspiracy theories if you want to hear them.
Oh, always. We love conspiracy theories.
I
here at
have
Get
this
Vocal.
theory, and I think I'll track it down one day. I'll get the energy to do it, but I feel like there may be some Chinese government sponsored hacking that's going and stealing intellectual property from American companies and then giving it to somebody like Huawei to then put in their thing. I feel like Huawei is a very shady company. I've seen them absolutely 100% steal source code in the past and put it into their own products and rebrand it their own thing, even though this is completely proprietary stuff. And they don't even fix the bugs that are in the source code, right? Like they just put the bugs in as well. And
Right.
and it's just horrible. They go as cheap as they can. They don't secure things, and I feel like there's probably some ties with the government there, which has an authoritarian grip on their own citizens. And so I don't see anything good coming out of Huawei at all. So I do think that the stories do hold legs. Do have legs.
Yeah, I just was listening to another podcast. They were talking about the China thing. And one of the things that kind of like shocked me was that this guy's opinion of the Chinese government was very, very grim, because he said that basically the government really can and does often go into major corporations and they just take control over the whole thing, and they kind of like divvy it out to some of the party leaders. I know this is kind of like an off subject, but it's
one of the stories
what the Chinese government does.
Yeah, one of the stories I heard was Dyson, the vacuum cleaner maker. They discovered that being hacked by China for years and years and years, and China was basically stealing all their intellectual property, everything that Dyson does, and so China was able to make knockoff Dysons, which is crazy to me to think that the government of China is allowing or sponsoring or doing hacks against just companies here in the US. And there's been some treaties between Obama and Xi Jinping, the president of China, as well as Trump and Xi Jinping, to say, hey, don't hack companies. We're not going to hack companies. You don't hack companies. And that's the agreement. And these things have been publicly stated, but I don't think those hold water at all, because the treaty is to say, let's not have governments hack companies, but then that doesn't say let's have companies, companies hack companies, but it's state allowed, right? That's like they're slipping through like a loophole or something. So it happens like crazy, and it rushes me.
The thing that's clear to me though is that everything is manufactured in China, so it's like right at their fingertips. So if Samsung, for example, says, hey, we need, well, they're manufacturing parts for Apple, for example, and they've already got all the technology in-house. So they're just going, oh, well, we need a screen. We'll just take this Apple screen over here, put that into our product. We have a couple of chipsets that we need, so we'll just take those ones and put them into our product. So all of a sudden, Samsung's got the dominant tools, dominant.
Yeah.
Okay, Don. Well, Don, thank you so much for your opinion and your questions, and honestly showing the beautiful artwork on Jack's website. Let's clear up that spot though. Well, thank you, Don. Have a great night. Sleep tight, buddy. Dream of Jack, the silhouette.
Don, if you want to hear more about that kind of stuff, China hacking, check out episode. It's called Aurora. I can't remember the number, but look for the episode Aurora. It gets into that a lot.
Jack's Don's gonna sleep to that probably tonight. He's
Good
probably
job.
going to go to sleep. Yeah. Guys, last minute questions. We're about to wrap up. I'm so happy with the activity that we had. I got 3 pages of notes of my questions, but your questions are so much better. Any last minute questions before we wrap up for the day? Jack, it's been amazing talking to you, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. You're really, really amazing what you've accomplished with this podcast, man.
Yeah, it's really cool to make something creative and to have people appreciate the creative work you do. Like it puts me on a high that's so fun and it's great. I
Yeah.
wish everyone could make something creatively and then get appreciated for it, because a lot of times you do something and then the only people who know it are like your boss or your coworkers or your clients. Like it doesn't get appreciated beyond that, and so this is really echoing much farther, and it's just, I've always got a smile every time it's like launch day. People are so kind and generous of like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool to see people like this.
Definitely, man. We'll keep that smile going. We wish you all the success. Maybe we'll have you on again soon, and we'll do this all over again. Thank you so much, Jack. And guys, for everyone who asked the question today, we will be putting the names in a hat, and we'll do a draw. And the lucky person will be good night, Don. The lucky person will receive free swag. We'll post the winner on social media, so follow us. Get vocal on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Jack, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, guys. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Until then, though, good night. See you, Jack.
Bye.